wind came howling down from the mountains like a living thing, sharp and angry, clawing at the Wyoming plains. Snow whipped across the open land in blinding sheets, erasing the road, the fences, the sky itself. Night had fallen fast, and with it came a cold so bitter it felt like it could crack bone. The cabin stood alone against it all. Built from dark, weather-beaten logs, it crouched near a line of pine trees, smoke rising thin and gray from its chimney. Inside, the fire burned low, casting flickering shadows across rough, hew-kneed walls and a scarred wooden table. Ethan Cole sat near the hearth, his back stiff, his hands wrapped around a tin mug gone cold. He had lived alone for nearly 7 years now. 7 winters, 7 summers, 7 long stretches of silence, broken only by the creak of saddle leather and the lowing of cattle. He preferred it that way, or so he told himself. Outside, something moved. At first, he thought it was the wind-shifting snow against the door. Then he heard it again, a sound, soft, uneven, a knock. Ethan frowned and rose to his feet, instincts sharpening. Nobody traveled these roads after dark in weather like this. He reached for the rifle mounted above the door, lifting it free in one smooth motion. Another knock followed, weak this time. "Please," a woman's voice called out, thin with cold. "Sir, please." Ethan froze. He crossed the cabin in 3 long strides and pulled the door open. The storm rushed in, filling the doorway with white fury. Standing there, barely upright, was a woman wrapped in a worn wool blanket dusted with snow. Her dark hair was braided down her back, stiff with ice. Her cheeks were hollow, her lips blue. Her eyes, deep, dark, and shining, lifted to meet his. "May I sleep in your cabin, sir?" she begged. "It's freezing outside." For a moment, Ethan could only stare. She was native. He could tell by the shape of her face, the copper warmth beneath the cold, the quiet dignity in the way she stood, even while shaking. His jaw tightened. The world had taught him caution. The land had taught him harder lessons. Trouble rarely announced itself gently, but death was standing right behind her, dressed as a blizzard. "Come in," he said gruffly, stepping aside. "Before you freeze solid." She didn't hesitate. She stumbled past him, nearly collapsing as soon as the door shut behind her. Ethan caught her arm, surprised by how light she was. "Easy," he muttered. He guided her to the chair near the fire. She sank into it, hands trembling as she held them out toward the flames. For several long seconds, neither of them spoke. Finally, Ethan cleared his throat. "You got a name?" She swallowed. "Ayana. Where you come from?" he asked. Her eyes flicked up to his, guarded. "Now, north? The Riverlands?" He nodded slowly. Those lands had been taken years ago, cleared, broken up by fences and deeds signed by men who never set foot there. "You alone?" he asked. She hesitated, then nodded once. Ethan set the rifle back on its hooks. He poured fresh water into a pot and set it over the fire. "You hungry?" Her pride fought the answer, but her body won. "Yes." He handed her a bowl of stew minutes later. She ate slowly at first, then with quiet urgency, every spoonful chased by warmth spreading through her limbs. Ethan watched her from across the room, saying nothing. Women didn't just appear at isolated cabins in storms like this, and native women least of all, not without reason. When she finished eating, her shoulders sagged as if the last of her strength had finally given out. "You can sleep by the fire," Ethan said. "I've got extra blankets." "Thank you," she whispered. "I won't cause trouble," he grunted. "Just rest." He laid blankets near the hearth and stepped back. As she lay down, exhaustion claimed her almost instantly. Her breathing slowed, steady and deep. Ethan returned to his chair but didn't sit. He stood there watching the firelight dance across her face. She looked younger in sleep, vulnerable. Trouble, his instincts warned. The wind battered the cabin all night, snow piled high against the walls. Ethan slept little, waking often to check the fire, to listen for sounds that didn't belong. At dawn, the storm eased. Pale light crept through the frost-laced window. Ethan stirred the coals and poured coffee. When he turned, he found Ayanna sitting up, her blanket wrapped tightly around her shoulders. "You're awake," he said. She nodded. "I didn't mean to stay so long. You stayed alive," he replied. "That's enough." She studied him for a moment. "You're not like the others." Ethan stiffened. "You don't know me. I know silence," she said softly. "And loss." Her words struck deeper than he liked. After a pause, he said, "Storm will pass by midday. You can head out then." She lowered her gaze. "I have nowhere to go." That was the moment everything changed. Ethan exhaled slowly. "Why were you out there?" She hesitated, then quietly. "They burned our winter camp." His hands curled into fists. "Who men?" she said with papers and guns. He looked away, jaw tight. "You can stay," he said at last, "for a day or two until you figure something out." Her eyes widened slightly. "You do that." "Don't thank me yet," he muttered. "I don't make promises." Days turned into weeks. Ayanna stayed. She helped without being asked, cleaned, cooked, mended a torn saddle strap with careful hands. She spoke little, but observed everything. Ethan found himself listening for her footsteps, for the soft hum she made while working. The cabin no longer felt so empty. But the pass has a way of catching up. One evening, as the sun dipped low and shadows stretched long, Ethan spotted riders on the horizon, 3 of them. He felt the old tension settle into his bones. Ayanna saw his face change. "They're looking for me," she said. Ethan reached for his rifle. "Then they'll have to come through me." The riders drew closer, their silhouettes sharp against the dying light. Ayanna stepped beside Ethan, fear and resolve wearing in her eyes. And as the wind began to rise again, Ethan knew this was only the beginning. The wind lifted suddenly, sweeping across the plains in a low, mournful cry. The riders were closer now, close enough that Ethan could hear the creak of leather and the dull jingle of metal. He didn't move from the doorway. His body settled into a familiar stillness, the kind that came before violence. Ayanna stood at his side, her breath shallow but controlled. "How many?" she asked quietly. "3," Ethan replied. "Maybe more not far behind." She nodded once. No panic, just truth settling in. The lead rider raised a hand, signaling the others to slow. They stopped just beyond rifle range, horses stamping, steam rising from their nostrils like smoke from fresh wounds. The man in front tipped his hat slightly. "Evening," he called. "Cold night to be out alone." Ethan didn't answer. The rider's gaze slid past him toward the shadow inside the cabin. "We're looking for someone," he continued. "Woman native ran off land she don't own." Ayanna's fingers curled into her shawl, but her chin lifted. "She's not your concern," Ethan said. The man smiled thin and sharp. "Everything's our concern now. Government papers say so." Ethan stepped forward, boots crunching in the snow. "Papers don't mean much out here." The second rider spat into the snow. "You harboring her puts you on the wrong side of the law." Ethan raised his rifle. Not threatening, not wild, just steady. Law doesn't reach this far. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then Ayanna stepped forward. Ethan's jaw tightened. "Ayanna, I won't hide," she said softly, but her voice carried. I have done nothing wrong." The leader's eyes fixed on her. "You come with us now, and no one gets hurt." Ethan fired. The crack of the rifle shattered the stillness. Snow leapt where the bullet struck near the led horse's hooves. The animal reared, screaming, nearly throwing its rider. "Last warning," Ethan said coldly. The riders didn't wait for another. They wheeled their horses hard, retreating into the dark, shouting curses swallowed by the wind. "Silence," rushed back in. Ayana's knees gave out. Ethan caught her before she fell, pulling her close. Feeling how violently she was shaking, he guided her inside and shut the door, sliding the heavy bar into place. "They'll come back," she whispered. "Yes," he said, "but not tonight." That night stretched long and restless. Ethan kept watch, rifle across his lap, eyes fixed on the narrow window. Ayana sat near the fire, wrapped in blankets, staring into the flames like she was reading something written there. "Why? Help me?" she asked suddenly. He didn't look at her. "Because I know what it's like to lose everything." She studied him. "You lost someone." He swallowed. "Two someones." She didn't ask more. Morning came gray and heavy. No riders returned. But Ethan knew better than to believe that meant safety. "They'll bring more," he said as they ate. "Men with badges this time." Ayana nodded. "Then I should leave." He looked up sharply. "No. If I stay," she said, "they'll destroy you." "They already tried," he replied. Days passed under a tense quiet. Ethan taught her how to shoot, how to read tracks, how to move without leaving a trail. She learned fast, too fast for someone who had already lived a hard life. At night, they talked more about her people, about songs her mother sang, about the child Ethan lost one winter night when the fever wouldn't break. One evening, she reached out and took. He held her hand, and this time, he didn't let go. Spring came carefully, inch by inch. Snow softened and pulled back. Fresh grass pierced the damp earth. Birds returned to the sky. Life pushed forward. But danger did too. One afternoon, riders appeared again, 5 of them. One wore a badge. Ethan reached for his weapon, but Ayana stepped ahead of him before he could speak. "I'll go," she said softly. "If that ends this." Ethan caught her arm. "No." The man with the badge smirked. "She comes with us, or we take her." Ethan raised his rifle. Ayana turned toward him, her voice steady. "You gave me shelter, warmth, a choice. Don't take that away now." His grip loosened. "I won't let them destroy you," he said, his voice rough. "They already tried," she replied, "and they failed." She stepped away, walking toward the riders with her chin lifted. The badge man reached for her, then froze. Behind him, Ethan's rifle was trained squarely on his chest. "She goes nowhere," Ethan said. "Not today. Not ever." For a long, breathless moment, the world stood still. Then the badge man slowly stepped back. "This land isn't worth the fight," he muttered. They rode away. When the dust settled, Ayana turned toward Ethan, tears bright in her eyes. "You chose me," she whispered. He crossed the space between them in 2 strides and pulled her close. This time, she didn't shake. "I choose you," he said. They stood there for a long while, the wind gentle now, no longer sharp. Months later, a fence surrounded the cabin, not to keep anyone out, but to mark something claimed by the heart, not by ink or law. Travelers spoke of a place where the wind softened, where a cowboy and a native woman stood side by side against a world that tried to erase them. And the land remembered.